Yeah, I started doing these power hang cleans today because it's well, it looks like it's a lot less impactful to your body as far as like just the pounding and stuff like that. Yeah, not so much. those, those hurt.
Power hanging cleans. Oh, so you start at your waist and then you just
Yeah,
come up like that? Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, they're deceptively hard.
Well, it wouldn't be bad if I had like boxes where I could drop the weight because it's just like doing your deadlifts and stuff. You're supposed to let that stuff free fall. So I know you always get those people in the gym. They're like, oh man, you can't control the weights. No, you're actually supposed to let it drop. It's not supposed to be good for you, but it
Yeah.
puts a lot of torque on the back, which I probably don't need. And then the wrists aren't as flexible as they were 20 years ago, so that doesn't help. So I don't know. We'll see how I feel tomorrow.
I just had a crappy workout. I mean, crap. Well, so you sent us that picture of your, you're like about to get some or something like that, and I was like, man, dude, Roger's got loaded. He's got like 295 loaded up on that thing, and I zoom in.
Do you
Oh,
zoom in?
they're bumper plates. Okay,
uh,
but man, I had big plans tonight. I was gonna have a really hard workout before Thanksgiving, and it just didn't come together. It's just, I mean, it wasn't bad. It just felt kind of flat and just, I
but
don't
you
know.
said
The
a
only
dude like passed out on the what did he pass out on?
Yeah. It's like that it's not a machine, it's like a bar where you pull it up to your chest, you lean over
Oh,
and pull
yeah,
that
yeah.
thing up to your chest. I got there and this dude was like he had just passed out and like a couple of the trainers were around him like they went and got him a chair and got him some water and I was like, "Oh, this is not a good sign." Is if somebody just passed out. And this guy wasn't jacked or anything, he's just working out. I don't know what happened. But
That's dedication right there, brother.
yeah,
I
but
quit
man,
way before I get to that point. It is funny though because that same machine, my boy was just telling me today. He was like, "Yeah, Dad," because he's been really into his back because I told him it's like everybody, you call them show muscles. Everybody focuses on the show muscles, the chest and the buys, and it's like then you look all funky when you're not, somewhat proportional. So he's been concentrating on his back a lot. He's like, "Yeah, I want to do that one. And that's kind of what I need, but I can't get the right." And I'm like, "Well, just stand on the floor, dude," because he can't get the right angle
yeah.
and it sits him up too high. And I was like, don't step up on the machine. Actually, just leave your feet on the floor and bend over.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
he's like, "Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, I think they make those for people that are like 5'5".
yeah. That did, I don't use that one much, but when I do, yeah, it took me a while to learn, oh, you don't have to put your feet up and hang. You can just put your feet down. So
Yeah.
it engages the same muscles. I mean, I'll tell you what I've been skipping, dude, and I'll tell you a little bit later why in the podcast. I've been skipping leg day, and after January 1st, I'm gonna start hitting legs really hard because, dude, I have not been doing any legs. I'm just not on weights anyway. So I'm not looking forward to that. Nobody likes leg day. Only sociopaths like leg day.
Well, it's always tough for us though because it's counterintuitive to what we had to do for our jobs. Where runners, long distances. I mean, don't get me wrong, I get it. Squats, deadlifts, good for everybody. But to really bulk up your legs, I mean, it's just hard. I mean, you look at just our time in the military, a lot of miles on the pavement.
Yeah.
And when you're putting those kind of miles on the pavement, it's really, really hard to. Yeah, you get strength.
Yeah.
More importantly, we get endurance, but it's hard to get past that critical mass point to where you can actually bulk up a little bit or get some
Yeah.
better definition.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's my excuse. Okay. Maybe not my problem. That's my excuse is that I spent my entire adolescence into my 20s doing, cycling and running.
Yeah.
I never really did. If I did weights, I was doing like leg extensions and the leg curls. I was never doing any heavy weights. I think that I think I've said this on the podcast before. I think what you do in your adolescence can define your body for a very long time. So like if
Sure.
you're a runner, or a swimmer or whatever in high school and maybe college, it's going to take you a long time to develop those different muscle groups. Whereas if you're a football player or a wrestler or something where you're in the gym, it's very important you have those explosive, muscle groups, trying to get into that running shape, where you can, is really tough. Maybe I don't, there's probably not any science behind that, but yeah, like you were saying, I agree. It's just me trying to put size on my legs and my flat white boy ass, man, dude. I mean, that's going to take that's going to take years of work. Years.
Yeah, I need to dedicate some time to cardio because, dude, you know how it is. I mean, one, I hated cardio anyway, even when I was younger. But as you get older, it don't get any easier, and it's just like, man, it is the most. I've always been a great runner, but I hate running. Like I hate running, but I've always been a really good runner. And you know, I've got the bike for cycling, and you know, I've got the gym. I can go do the stairmaster and all that stuff. It's just like, man, you know, I do my podcasts and, you know, I still do the Bible in a year thing or whatever, but I get bored, dude. I mean, it's like, at least when you're lifting, all the blood is going to whatever body part you're working out. So there is no more blood left for like mental capacity. Like you're not think I'm like, I'm going to die under this bar. That's what I'm thinking about. But like when you're running or something, man, there's nothing else to think about except, hey, this kind of sucks.
Well, you gotta like the weight, hitting the weights and stuff. You can really pull out some demons, pull out some
Yeah.
angry energy, right? Just really get out there. But man, to pull out those kind of demons while you're running, man, you have some serious demons. Like if you're on a distance run, that's one of the reasons I was, uh, you know, I ran and swam and did cycling. Because, dude, when my adolescence, I had some demons, man. Every adolescent boy does, but man, I mean, I wasn't popular. I wasn't, I had zits all over my face, and I want girls coming after me. When that's when your hormones are going crazy, and it's just like, I'm gonna get on the road and run these demons out of my body. I don't have those kind of demons anymore. So running, yeah, it's boring now. But let me tell you real quick why I'm not doing legs, why I'm not hitting legs in the gym, and I've been kind of waiting to say this on the podcast because I wasn't sure if it was going to come together, but it looks like it's going to. So at the end of December and into January 1st, I'm doing an ultra marathon in Houston, Texas. It goes for 55 hours. And you just see how much ground you can cover in 55 hours. And I'm doing it with a listener, Darren, and we're going to go down there and just see how much we can knock out. We both want to get to 100. They give you a prize if you get to 100, and they give you a bigger prize if you get to 150. So I'm not shooting for 150. I'm shooting for 100. And man, I'm here to tell you, I've run marathons in my life. The longest single walk I've taken in the past, I don't know, 5 years was a 25 miler loop. I did that in about, I don't know, 8 hours, just walked it. And that was tough, man. So it's like in 55 hours, I figure if I can walk 4 miles an hour, which is a leisurely pace, 4 miles per hour
Sure.
is a leisurely pace. I think I can knock it out I think I can knock out 100 miles, but it ain't going to be easy. Anyone who thinks, oh, I can do that, it's just walking, man, bro, at 50 years old, your joints start stiffening up at about mile 20, no matter how slow you're walking, and they just don't want to go. So it's a real gut check. And Darren, he's done a 50K where he jogged it. Like he ran a 50K, and he's like, I'm not even going to train for this. It's all going to be a gut check. Darren always wanted to be a Navy SEAL, and I think he could have been a Navy SEAL. He's got that mental, he's got that place in his mind where he can go, but he wants to push himself like that. So he doesn't want to train for it. He doesn't want it to be easy. He wants to suffer. So this is where I'm going to do the little pitch. So it's called the Snowdrop 55. It's in Houston, Texas. And it's a fundraiser for cancer. And the reason they call it the Snowdrop 55 is back, I can't remember what year it was, but a little girl, about 9 years old, came in for emergency surgery. They thought she was having a hemorrhage. And she was coming out of cancer. She's in remission. And they came in, she thought she was having a hemorrhage, and they discovered, holy cow, this girl's got a tumor. It's bad. So there were two doctors. They worked 27 hours straight, no breaks, through shift changes on that surgery. Two doctors, 27 hours straight. That's crazy. So they call it the Snowdrop 55, 27 plus 27, two doctors, plus the 1 hour, or the 1 hour stands for the little girl's life who they save. So it's kind of a big deal. They got a lot of sponsorship, so if any of y'all are interested in, giving to the cause or sponsoring me, it doesn't have to be per mile. Obviously, it can just be a flat amount. It could be $1, it could be $5, whatever. Hit us up, and you can hit me up if you have my number. You can hit us up on Facebook. I'll send you the information. You can read it over and decide whether you want to give a little money to the cause. But no pressure. Um, Nothing like that, but yeah, hit us up. Hit me up.
That's a pretty good
So
haul, man. How many hours? You said 55 hours
55,
to
55,
go
and
as
I
far as you can go.
to go as far as you can go. And they have tents set up. We actually rented a tent out there, a little 2-man tent, and a cot. So I've got my sleeping bag. We're gonna have I'm gonna have those Home Depot buckets. My wife's going. She's gonna come out there every few hours and bring us ice and whatever we want to eat. And we're just gonna ice our feet. Darren's bringing one of those Theraguns. Um, all I'm like, if I could get my hands on any like quality meds, I would. That's why I wish your daughter was, done with her studies. So
Hey, we're working on it, man.
because dude, dude, I have no pride. Whatever performance enhancing, I don't care. There's no drug testing for this event. Just get me some, some of those high powered, those good drugs. Get me as soon as it's gonna suck. So yeah, so that's the plan. That's the plan.
Hopefully none of the accrediting board listens to this, because they're not even, she'll lose her license before she even gets it.
They don't know her name.
No, that's a good point. And that, you hit it on the head. It's like, because I was sitting here doing the math. I was like, oh yeah, it's 3-4 miles an hour. I mean, he'd cover 100 pretty easy. But then I'm like, dude, I walk around the mall for like an hour and I'm in pain, man. Like,
yeah,
you don't think about, it's like we talk about all the time. We bust your balls for your, not claiming VA and this and that and whatever. And it's like, dude, as you get older, the more and more beat up your body is. Like, I think I was in my prime in like 35. I actually remember sitting there like 35. I was back at the office. I'm like, dude, I'm in my prime. I'm like, I'm as strong as I've ever been. I'm as fast as I've ever been. You're talking about, where you are mentally. I'm like, dude, this is it. And then, working out, physical strength, endurance, health, general health. It's kind of like running backs in the NFL, right? They start off and they're like 1,000-yard season, 1,400-yard season, 1,600-yard season, 1,800-yard season, 200-yard season, and that's it. There's this good incline, and then you just fall off a cliff, and then somewhere around 40, dude, that cliff hit for me, and then still in good shape and this and that, but like even now, dude, I walk around for like an hour at the mall. I'm like, babe, like back starts seizing up, you start having back spasms, and the joints start hurting or whatever. So that's a long way, dude. You're probably going to feel that one for a couple days.
I think stuff like that fundamentally changes something physiologically in your body, like especially when you're 50. I mean, it's different when people are used to it. There's ultramarathon. And Darren's like, yeah, I think I'm going to jog. I'm like, dude, I'm not going to jog one step, not one step. I'm all about conserving my energy. And Darren may lap me a couple times, but we'll probably finish around. I don't know. Maybe he'll.
I was going to ask. So, what's the route? Is it like
that's going to be the brutal part of it. It's a 0.659 loop. And
wow!
It's in and it's in a park. So I mean, the scenery is going to be cool for the first 3 hours.
Hey, kids, Big Ben.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm not getting real scientific about it, but I am. I've broken in 2 pairs of shoes. I want to get one more, just to change out the shoes, change out the socks.
Dude, you're going to have to break out like the old army boots, man.
Oof, no. Well, those old desert boots, if I could find the old ones,
man.
That's not a bad idea, but those are hard to find. The old ones are hard to find.
So I still have my old black jungle boots. I don't throw them away, because I probably haven't worn them in years, but they're good shit kickers. You go out in the desert, go shooting something like that. I don't want to ruin something else, but dude, by now, I mean, those things are molded to my feet. I mean, those things are 30 years old. They are literally molded to my feet. So yeah, it'd be awesome.
That's not a bad idea. I think I have a pair of the desert ones. I have 2 pair. One, the soles are just completely gone. So I wore those things completely out, because back in the day when I was in San Antonio, I was wearing them everywhere. Those were my daily wears. But I think I have another pair that's broken in. I may take those just to see, because anything's going to change it up around mile 60 is going to be good. Like any games you can play with yourself. I'm going to walk 5 miles in these and then change back into something comfortable. There's going to be a lot of mind games going on. But
that is true, man.
Yeah, but I don't know. The good thing is we can eat whatever we want. We're going to have the wife running out to Five Guys to get us burgers. Just whatever, because the name of the game is calories at that point. You just think of the calories that are going through. The glycogen reserves are going to be gone.
You got to do the Ann Treason thing and just slam a Coke. That was her thing.
Was
She
it?
was a, yeah. You ever read Kristen McDougall, Born to Run?
I haven't read it. No.
Fantastic book. Fantastic. But it's actually, I mean, well, don't read it at this age because it'll make you go out and run and hurt yourself. You know, you get out to the first 100 meters, you're like, yeah, I can't do this. But I read it years ago when I started wearing minimal shoes. And I think she was a chemistry teacher. And she literally, if I remember correctly, and I'm sure some of our listeners have read the book, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think maybe her car broke down or something like that, or maybe it was a health thing or whatever. She's like, I'm going to, as a teacher, I'm just going to run to the school or whatever. And then I'll get a ride back or whatever. So that was like 2 miles. And then it was like, well, I'm going to run to school and then I'm going to run back. And, that's like 4 miles. And then she started doing like 8 miles. And then the next thing you know, man, this chick's doing ultra marathons. And I think one of her, if I'm not mistaken, one of her strategies, because, ultra marathons, you're doing generally up hills and it was straight, right? So it was basically walk the uphills, slam a Coke, man, and just sprint as fast as you can down the hill, and I forget whatever happened to her. I mean, I don't even know if she's still alive or whatever, or won any races. But anyway, you're taking a chick that started running like 2 miles. The next thing you do, she's running 100-mile weekends, which is insane. Which one of our listeners is like that? I mean, Will, his wife, I don't want to throw her name out here. Not that she listens, but dude, she's hardcore, man. She is in shape. She's fit. I've driven out to his house, he's kind of out there in the middle of the desert. Dude, it'll be 115. And I will literally pass her out there running it like the 8 mile mark. I'm just like, dude, you were out of your mind. You were insane.
I want to go back to something you were saying about the peak, right? Around 35. I would say for me, overall, like holistically, I would say, yeah, mid 30s to about 39, 40 was, overall, probably 35 was about right. Just holistically. Now, the fastest I ever was in college, like my first couple of years of college, where I could just, dude, I ran a 5K and there were a couple runners from UT. It was my freshman year of college. I think there were a couple runners from UT who were on the cross country team. And I was like, I'm going to stick with these guys as long as I can. And these guys are elite. The University of Texas cross country team. So I stuck with them the first mile and ran the fastest mile of my life. I think it was like 4:20 or something. It was insane. And then they just left me and they kept that pace. I think my second mile was like 6 something and my last mile was like almost 7. But dude, I was fast. And that's one of the reasons I don't want to run anymore, because it's demoralizing. It's like, I'll never be that fast again. And you compete with yourself. That's why going to the gym is so easy, because you get, not easy, but that old man strength is still there. You can actually be, or especially a guy like me who was a skinny for years. I can definitely be stronger than I was back then. No doubt. But yeah, I think 35. I was talking to a couple people not long ago, and they were saying, what age would you go back to if you could, if you had to go back and relive an age, what would it be? And it was like a round robin, like a game or whatever. And I picked, I didn't want to, wuss out and say, I'll pick the age I am now, because that's boring. That's a cop out, because I really do. I like the age I'm at now.
Sure.
You got the wisdom. My body's not completely broken down, all that stuff. But I picked, I think I picked 35, 36. And this one girl's like, well, I'm 28 and I don't want to be 30. And I'm like, you want to get older. I guess with women, it's different. But this other psychopath woman said, I would go back to 15. And I was like, you would what?
Are you high?
Those are the worst years of my life. From 15 to 18 were horrible. The high school years were just awful for me.
She must be an ugly chick now. She was probably a hot chick at 15, and she's an ugly chick now.
She's attractive. She's 30. I don't know. She's 30, late 30s. And she's all right, but she just said, I had a great high school. I loved it. I had a lot of freedom. And I'm just like, God, man, you couldn't pay me. Speaking of paying, I want to ask you a question. Speaking of paying.
Mm-hmm.
So how much would you sell one of your kidneys for? First of all, would you do it? And if the answer is no, then let's say, okay, you have to, and you can name your price. Like, realistically, how much would you sell one of your kidneys?
Dude? And I've said this, not just for my kidney. For my kidney, going back overseas to like, Iraq, Afghanistan, something like that, at a minimum, it would have to be like $5 million.
Oh, wow. Damn, that's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot. Like for a kidney.
Yep.
A lot of people live with one kidney. Let's
Yep.
just say, hey, let's say it's totally legit. It's a legit surgeon. You're in a level 1 trauma ward where, very little risk. So it would still be 5 million. Why so high?
I figure after taxes, I'll walk away with about two and a half. I'll walk away with 2.5, $3 million. And, that on top of retirement and other things or whatever would allow me to do things that I want to do
But
without
you
having to
wouldn't
work
be
again.
okay. 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 So for you, it's 7 figures, low 7 figures.
Oh, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
is that because of the risk, or it's just like, no, that's my kidney, or I don't want to take a
It's
chance?
it's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of the risk, and it's my kidney. Obviously, it would depend on the cause and this and that. I mean, you're just throwing out
No,
there.
no
It's like, hey,
cause, no cause. You could
kidney.
just
It's
go
like,
sell it.
yeah, it would have to be like 5 million at least,
Okay. Now
and then I would
donating
think
it.
about it, and then I would think about it at 5 million.
Well, but if you're donating to a family member that of course, who needs it, that will be free. You do that.
Four and a half.
Well,
Getting the family and friends discount.
I was thinking my figure would be much lower. If I was determined to be in good enough health to live with one kidney, you might have to alter some things about your lifestyle, right? With one kidney, because now your filtration system is down by half. So you'd have to think about it, right? And I think my figure would be lower than that, but it would definitely be, I don't know, minimum after taxes 200,000 minimum. And even then, I'd think about it. But
So
that's
you're looking at about 350, 400K, roughly.
yeah. So the reason I ask is because this this new it got me to thinking. Argentina just elected a new president, Javier Milei. Have you read anything about him yet?
I haven't. I've just off of what you've been saying, and then some of
Yeah.
the posts that's been on X.
Well, he is an interesting dude. He's very interesting. He calls himself an anarcho-capitalist. He calls himself a right-wing libertarian. But in reality, he's not an anarcho-capitalist. He's more of a very soft libertarian. He's a former economics teacher. He's a former he was like a commentator, like a Tucker Carlson kind of guy. But he looks like a Wish.com version of Wolverine from the X-Men. He just looks like an old, fat, not fat, but old, out of shape, less good looking, worse hair type Wolverine. This guy is kind of a character. Everyone's comparing him to Trump. And the more I listen to his platform and what he's going to do, the more I'm like, man, this is exactly what Argentina needs. Because Argentina's got something crazy, like 143% inflation year over year. And it's just like, wow. I mean, their peso is worth nothing. You can't even trade dollars for it. Um, one of his platforms, I guess, is he would like to make the dollar, Argentina's currency. And the courts are saying, no way, that's unconstitutional. But he's like, well, we got to do something. They can't pay off their IMF loans, International Monetary Fund. It's just they're in deep trouble because for a long time they've lived under Peronism, like Juan. Wait, what was his name? Peron was the last name. Everybody knows Eva Peron, his wife. Madonna made a movie about her, a musical. But Peronism is a kind of I'll stop short of saying fascism because the true definition of fascism is your government is incorporated. Basically, your government picks corporations. They sponsor those corporations. It's not quite socialism, but his system was a mix between like socialism and fascism from an economic sense. And it just wasn't working. It was, I can't remember the term for it, but basically the government would pick out certain corporations and just kind of, these are ours now, so they're government corporations. And this guy, Javier Milei, is like, now we're going to get away from that. We're going to cut all these ministries, like the Ministry of Transgender Studies, the Ministry of Sport and Culture. And, when you watch his videos where he's saying this stuff, he campaigned with a chainsaw, he's going to cut the government. And, he's just a character, man. And of course, the media here is comparing him to Trump, saying it's the end of the world. But in my opinion, that's just what Argentina needs. If Argentina could fix its shit, beautiful country. If Argentina had a comparable economy to like Brazil, that might be one of my bug out locations. Like if I didn't want to retire outside of the United States, if the economy was good in Argentina, I would consider it. It's beautiful there. But anyway, I didn't know if you'd heard of him, but that was one of his platforms too. Is he goes, "Your body, your choice." Even though he's pro-life, which is not a libertarian thing, he's like, "Well, if we're going to be pro-life, your body, your choice. I think we should be able to sell organs. If you want to sell one of your organs, you should be able to." It's like I started thinking about it. It's like, yeah,
Why not?
why not? It's your choice. It's your kidney. You want to sell it, go ahead. If you want to sell one of your eyes, go ahead. It's your eye. It's your life. But I thought that was interesting. And everybody's all up in arms. Oh, he wants to sell organs. It's like, well, there is a critical kidney shortage. Like
Yeah.
I did a little research on that, dude. There ain't enough kidneys.
Liver lobes. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that you, on the good natured side, right? Humanitarian side that, hey man, I don't know off the top of my head, but I mean, there's got to be thousands of people that die a year looking for donors.
Yep.
And if you are a good Samaritan and you've got that mindset and you're like, hey man, I've got 2 good kidneys. I can give away one, why not?
Privatize it, right? And you'd have to regulate the privatized side.
Absolutely.
You just have to do it. But privatize it, make it a for-profit type business. And buddy, I'm telling you, you would see it change. It's the same thing. And he got dinged on this big time because I thought that was hilarious. They said, because he's a smart dude. He's a former professor of economics. He's won awards. Milton Friedman's his favorite. Not Milton Friedman.
Oh Lord.
Who is it? It's not Milton Friedman. I'll think of it in a second. But all these conservative
Thomas Friedman.
Thomas, is it Tom? Whatever.
Thomas.
Whatever. Don't. He's from the Austrian school where it's just like, hey, open markets, right? And so one of the interviewers asked him about the organs. They said, well, what about children? He goes, sure, why not? Because he's kind of a crazy dude. And he had to clarify his statements. Like, you're into selling children? Clarified his statements. He's like, no, look, there are people out there who want to adopt. Okay. But it's just too difficult. And he was talking about Argentina. He was talking about the United States. He's like, you privatize that, regulate it, make incentives, and it won't be as big of a problem anymore. Hell, a few years ago, my wife and I are too old now to adopt. We're literally too old. The age can't add up to over 100. The ages, if your wife is 51 and you're 50, you can't adopt in most cases. So, but years ago, about 10 years ago, we were actually considering it. We were like, maybe we could do that. We're inspired by Ryan King, some other friends of ours. And we're like, maybe we should adopt. My wife and I never raised a child together. Right. And we're like, well, that would be good. We have the means to do it. Won't be easy. But man, we started looking at the process. It's like, it's not definitely to get a child in the US is just, it's next to impossible. And overseas is easier. And it's like, what's up with that? I'd rather, not because I'd rather save one of my own. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather save another American than another country. Not that I'm opposed to that, but we were looking at Africa. We looked at China, but dude,
I think China's got some pretty strict policies.
Now they do.
U.S. folks.
Now they do.
Yeah. U.S. citizens adopting Chinese kids.
They do. Strict. I do have a couple of people I know. Ryan was on the show and talked through it, but that was with Africa. With China, it's sketch because the strict regulations are for healthy Chinese babies, but what they're trying to pawn off on Americans is kids with like serious defects. Those are easy to get.
Sure.
but jeez. So yeah, that's typical Chinese stuff. But anyway, yeah, I thought that was interesting. Privatize the adoption industry, regulate it, privatize it, the organ donation industry. He's very, very free market type guy. So I think that's a positive direction in the state or the continent of South Africa, because man, there's some serious left turns, man, especially Brazil. But man, they don't F around, Roger, in South America with their politicians. This guy, there's a target on his back,
Sure.
There is definitely a target on his back. So, but it'll be interesting. I think that's a good sign. And
he brings up some valid points though, and this is always the argument I have with a lot of the left. They talk about my body, my choice. And this is where the laws get all dicey, because they're not able to articulate what the limits are, right? It's like my body, my choice. Okay, your body, your choice. So I don't have to take the vaccine. Well, no, you got to take the vaccine. Well, why do I have to take the vaccine? If you can have an abortion up to the point of birth, why do I have to take a vaccine? Well, because you have to. Yeah, you have to, because you're saving other people around you, not just you. Well, you're killing a baby in your womb. So what's the difference? So your body, your choice. So I should be able to sell an organ. If me as a healthy, adult male wants to sell a kidney to, and not even for the $5 million, right? If you're just like, hey, look, I need to be compensated because I'm going to be off my feet for a couple months, and obviously I need to have bills to pay and this and that, but I want to be able to donate my kidney to somebody who needs it. Like, why wouldn't you be able to do that? Now, the kid thing gets a little dicey, but at the same time, I mean, it's like, hey, if it's, granted, it's not property. The kid is not property. But again, you can abort in some of these states up to the point of birth. So what's the difference with selling a child? And again, not talking about for profit. We're talking about like, hey, obviously these medical bills come up and this and that. So we're not trying to create a market for it, but you have a child, you can't afford to keep the child. The adoption process is too long and arduous. The kid's going to end up in some foster home anyway. It's like, why not be able to sell that to a family that is looking for a child to adopt, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, I mean, there's a lot of things that got to come in where you get, one, it has to be privatized, but it has to be heavily regulated. But the left can't articulate any of that stuff. It's always my body, my choice. Well, except for that you have to do. And I kind of like what you said. It's a good term, right-wing libertarian, because I think between you and Josh, if you take out, well, I guess you don't have to take out, that would be the right-wing part. That is probably what we all are. I would be more of a libertarian if it wasn't for their crappy foreign policy. Like, you have to have a foreign policy, and they just don't. Isolationism is their foreign policy, and you just can't do that, period. But when it comes to free market and just like, hey man, just kind of leave me alone, let me do my thing. I mean, yeah, and all, in all sense. And so I think right-wing libertarian is probably closer to all of us. Here's what's interesting that you bring that up, because, and for those out there, we didn't really coordinate this, obviously, as you've listened to most of our episodes, but I sit there and you look at, well, one, have you watched the Discovery series, The Garden, Commune or Cult?
No.
Fantastic. So we're in episode 4 now, I think. It's a mini series. So I don't know how many episodes there are, but basically it's just a bunch of people that go out and want to start their own community, and they want to govern themselves. And they started out in Chattanooga, Tennessee, I think, like on 25 acres. They're creating a new community out in Missouri. I think it's La Plata, Missouri. There's like another 25 acres or whatever, but a lot of folks are going there. They interview them because people are ready for the fall of society. Right. They're looking at what's going on now. And these are things that have happened in the last 2-3 years since Biden has become president. But my point is, when you look at that and then look at what's happening with our labor force right now, where you've got Starbucks folks going on strike. You've had the auto union going on strike, riders striking. I think that's finally over with. The railroad tried to go on strike. And today they announced the Phoenix airport workers, they're going on strike this week.
Oh, geez.
Right?
Serious?
So yes. So if you're flying into Phoenix, don't fly somewhere else. Right. But it makes me wonder. And again, I don't know the history of strikes in this. I know, they've obviously been around forever, but I don't seem to remember as many labor issues as what we're seeing now. And even when you get on X, you start reading all the posts, and it's all about, greedy corporate billionaires and greedy companies. And it's funny because I start to go down the rabbit hole with these folks like, well, hey, I kind of like companies that I invest in to be profitable. Like, I don't know what your 401k invests in, but you need to make money. But I started thinking about this stuff. I'm like, man, why is this stuff so bad? And and I could be oversimplifying, so I'll get your opinion on it. Dude, it's inflation. Mm-hmm. That's what it comes down to. It's inflation. Wages have gone up, but wages have not kept up with inflation. People cannot afford basic necessities anymore. No matter how much gaslighting the administration blows out there and all of his pundits about, hey, man, you're paying less this year for a turkey than you did last year. Well, yeah, but you already paid 60% more the year prior. They don't understand. It's that year-over-year thing. But when people can't afford basic necessities, credit starts to run out. Dude, you need more money, right? You need more money. And gone are the days of, they used to tell people just learn to code, but gone are the days of just going out and bettering yourself and getting a better skill set and earning more money. It's just, well, no. And this is a perfect angle for the unions to come in, right? You deserve better wages. For the work that you're doing, you deserve better wages because you can't live off this stuff. Well, you could back when you were paying $2 a gallon for gas. Now you're paying $4.59. I had a guy today. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I had a guy today on X. He's like, oh, I paid 99 cents a pound for my turkey. I'm like, oh, that's great. What'd you pay in gas to get there? And he's like, well, I paid 50 cents less than I did 6 months ago trying to be a smartass. So I pulled it up and I was like, no, you actually paid 1 cent less than what you did 6 months ago because gas has been that high that long. But I think what you're starting to see, and the administration won't, you don't even hear about it in the news anymore. It's inflation, man. And you are seeing the real effects and the real impacts of inflation and pushing your dollar down, no matter how much you think you've earned. You've taken that 13, 15, 18% pay cut, and people just can't afford it. And when you can't afford it, there's no more, you have no mobility in your career to move around and earn more money, or no more earning potential. That leaves an angle, that leaves an opening for things like labor unions, strikes, that type of stuff. So I don't know. Am I oversimplifying that, or that, as I gave a lot of thought to this over the weekend as I was drinking, and dude, it's all inflation, but nobody won't call it.
I agree. I think inflation is at the root of a lot of this stuff. Obviously, but you start giving it some more thought, and you're like, well, how do I articulate this, to an idiot on X, or to, over the Thanksgiving dinner with your liberal family member, or a kid who just doesn't know any better. I think the inflation is the root cause of a lot of this stuff. You make some good points with the unions, and it is what it is. I think the writer's strike, I would like to see what the terms of that were, because I know AI was a big part of it. And I want to talk about AI later. Hold on. Let me write that down.
You know what? I was telling my wife this earlier today. I hate AI. I hate it.
Well,
I hate the term AI because it's just not.
No, it's not true. It's not true. And that's another thing. I have that written down too, to talk about terms I hate. The terms I hate because people are using them wrong. Yeah, whatever. Okay, so, but back to inflation. Now I lost my train of thought. So, damn it.
I mean, you figure bottom line is.
Here,
go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, so we had a direct interaction with inflation today, and inflation causes a lot of different things to happen, because you were saying, well, companies got to be profitable, right? And that's why you get shrinkflation. There was the news story about how they're going to start putting less stuffings in Oreos. You're like, why are they doing that? It's like, man, if you could cut down just, I don't know, 1/10 of an ounce and then scale that out, you think how much money you're going to save on that. I remember there was a story from the 1990s where it was like United Airlines or something, when they were serving their salads, back when airlines used to serve food, the good old days. Well, I don't know, maybe they weren't so good, but they'd have this little tiny salad, in those little tiny airline bowls, right? And it used to come with 2 black olives. Okay. They took those 2 black olives out, and somebody noticed and wrote a news story about it. Hey, how dare they do this? And it turns out the amount of money they saved at scale was insane by eliminating 2 black olives, hoping no one would notice. And really, nobody cares if there's 2 black olives in there or not. So if you can eliminate something, save some money, and make it profitable, man, that's the name of the game. And the consumer a lot of times gets screwed, but that's where we rely on the market to be like, okay, well, we're done with this. We're moving on to a better product. And that's, and on the crazy dance goes. But
sure,
where we ran into this today was, every Thanksgiving for the past few years, we've gotten these butterball turkey breasts. They're big. They're like that big. And they basically, they sandwich this giant turkey breast into this frozen thing, and they wrap it. It's not a big turkey. Don't have any bones in it. Right. It's great. Right. So the wife knows how to, brine and brine them just right. And so we picked up 2 of those, because we're going to go to we're bringing the turkey. It's going to be those turkey breasts, going to be sliced up nice. I don't like you to eat meat off the bone, so it works for me. It's just easier for everyone. So we got the same two breasts, right? The same two things. They weigh the same, right? Same everything. My wife opens that up this afternoon to start brining it, and she went ape. She's like, "This is ridiculous. Come here and look at this." I go in there and look at it. It ain't the same. You open that thing up, you thaw it out, you open it up, and it falls apart. They're turkey, not parts, but it's like 3 pieces of dark meat and like a half of a turkey breast. She's like, "What the hell is this?" I'm
Wow.
like, "Let me see that. Let me look at the package." And it's the same package as the one we buy every year. They had Butterball decided this is what we're gonna have to do this year. And I was like, well, maybe we picked up the wrong one. So I picked up a couple more tonight, and we're gonna thaw them out and see if it's the same deal. I don't know who owns Butterball. It's probably Tyson, but it's like we ain't buying that again next
Isn't that a
year.
Purdue or something like that?
It
I
might be
think.
Purdue. Yeah, it's probably Purdue. But yeah, I mean, that's that shrinkflation thing. These companies are seeing what they can get away with. Maybe everybody will forget next year that it wasn't the same. They'll do the same, and that'll be the new normal. You know, yeah, one of the things I had to explain it to a family member who's a little bit on the younger side about inflation, and this family member was trying to tell me that, well, it's the companies that are doing this. It's the companies, and they're jacking up the prices because they know they can. And I'm like, ugh. So I try to have a conversation about economics and supply and demand with him, and devaluing your currency by printing more of it, injecting it in, and it wasn't sinking in. So I gave the example of a landlord who owns a house, right? You own a
Sure.
house and you're renting it out, and you're like, you know what? I can't afford to put gas in my car anymore because I'm paying more for gas, I'm paying more for food, I'm paying more for all this stuff. The dollars that they're paying me, let's say that rent is $600 a month at the place you own. Well, that $600 a month doesn't go as far as it used to. It doesn't cover the mortgage on that place anymore. Well, it may cover the mortgage actually because those interest rates don't change. But you are getting you in your everyday life, your dollar doesn't go as far. So what do? You have to jack up the rent to live. That kind of sunk in. He's like, "Oh yeah, I guess so." And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's how it works." It's not. I'm not trying to screw anybody over. I'm the one getting screwed here, and I have no choice but to pass that on to, you know, my customers. It's just the
Yeah, I
way it
mean, there's
works.
just no basic understanding because at the same time, with that, like you're saying, they want to be paid more as employees. Well, it's like,
Hmm.
okay, well, then if you want to be paid a higher wage, that means the company needs to earn more money. How do you think the company's going to earn more money? They're going to increase revenue by either raising prices or selling more, right?
Yep.
And it's easier to raise prices, but there is a tipping point there. And dude, you're spot on. It's not even just, we need to come up with a term with it. There probably is a term for it because it's not just shrinkflation, it's also quality, right?
Hmm.
It's quality meat. So for those folks out there, I don't know if they remember if I said this last year, but we don't do turkey during Thanksgiving. We buy a big slab of I don't even know what you call it, but I guess a New York strip roast, and we cut them up. So it's I don't know, man. It's probably 10, 15 pounds or something like that, and then we cut them up, and that way because we don't do the turkey thing and we don't have the leftover turkey. We do all the sides, but we just don't do the turkey thing. Freeze up the oven, all that other good stuff. But and normally, man, you pay a pretty good price for it, but it's New York strips. I like them because they're very lean. I can't do the ribeyes anymore, especially as I get older. Get all the fat and whatever. But even now, I noticed as I was going through there, and I'm at Costco, and I'm going through the packs of them. They've got like 15 packs, and there are people waiting behind me, and I'm going through, and it's all wrapped up, vacuum sealed, and I'm like looking and this and that, and these people are like getting annoyed. I'm just like, dude, there is so much fat front and back of these things, and we're not talking about marbling. Okay, we're talking about hard fat. And what's happened is it goes all the way back to the farms, right? It's the feed that they're giving them, the quality of feed. You're not getting
Hmm.
as lean a cut of beef anymore. It's cheaper to feed them the crappier corn or the crappier wheat or the crappier barley or whatever it is that they're eating, and you're just not getting that lean cut. So you take shrinkflation on top of lower quality. I mean, that's what these companies are having to do to make ends meet. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand CEOs are making millions of dollars in some places and this and that. Guess what? That's what you're going to have to. Any of these, young adults out there, you think you can run a Walmart? I'm talking about like Walmart, like Fortune 1 Walmart. Okay. You have to pay money to attract these folks. And oh, by the way, I hate to break this to you. Generally speaking, that salary doesn't put a dent in the price of your applesauce that you're buying at the store, right?
Mm-mm.
Just because the revenue is so high. But you want to be, you know, they want to be paid what they're worth, these young adults. But hey, these decision makers up there and you know, marketing folks and VPs and executives, they don't want them to make what they think they're worth. And then for small businesses, it's like they don't understand that. You know, you look at like big oil as an example. Big oil, record profits, you know, this and that. How about in 2020 when they lost money? How about in 2016 when they lost money? You know, you look at small businesses where you may go 3, 4, 5. I can't believe the size of the bonus that you got this year. Well, yeah, I went 4 years without a pay raise. Not me specifically, but as an example, you know, I went 4 years without a pay raise, 4 years without a bonus. I mean, a lot of people, and we've got business owners out there, you sacrifice so much that, hey, man, you might not finally be able to capitalize on this stuff for 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's insane, you know. So it does, and that's a great example when you look at the rent. And that's what I tell folks around here when they look at school bonds. And there's a lot more behind the school bonds than just the amount of money. But they're like, no new taxes with the school bond. We promise nobody's going to be taxed. Well, okay, the government doesn't make anything, contrary to popular belief in the Biden administration. You know, they don't make anything, right? And so, in order for especially local government to raise money, they have to tax it. And if you don't tax it, okay, you tack it onto something else that the consumer, that the taxpayer has to pay for. Here, famously, they do it in your mortgage. You know, so like the landlord thing is a perfect example, because now for like the next 25 years, I've got a $50 fee on top of my mortgage to pay for a school bond that passed 10 years ago or whatever it is. Now, like you said, you're renting this place out. You're renting it out for $600 a month. Proposition 101 passes. And now, hey, now I guess if you own, you know, you live in an apartment, you don't have to pay it, just the homeowners. So the homeowners have to foot this. So now that $50, like I'm not paying that out of my pocket. Guess what? I'm going to pass that down to my renter, and you're going to pay that $50. And oh, by the way, there's a processing fee and everything on top of that. So it's going to end up being $54, right? $55, whatever.
And then what does that renter do at that point? Back to bring it full circle. Let's say the renter works at Walmart or works at a business. What are they? Or let's say they're part of a union. What are they going to do? Yeah, I saw your lips.
Yeah, need more money.
They're going to go ask for a raise, or they're going to strike, because it's like, I don't have enough money to pay my rent because rent just went up by 15% or whatever it is. It's just it's a vicious cycle. It really is. And I don't know. It's going to take a while to come out of it. It's going to take a while.
Well, they're just not coming to the realization of why we're in the position that we're in. It goes all the way back to, and I know I'm picking on the administration, but you know, it's just some of the stuff, man. There's so much gas. President doesn't have anything to do with gas prices. Well, you know what? He's not the only factor in gas prices, but you can't tell me that our energy policy, our trade policy, that type of stuff doesn't have, or domestic drilling policy, you can't tell me those don't impact oil prices. They absolutely do, because it's just basic supply and demand. And the problem is, until the American people come to accept why we are truly in the situation that we're in, it doesn't get fixed. That's why, like, even now, I hear the Fox News polling, and I kind of, I think Josh started Thanksgiving early. He's already eating. That's why he didn't make it for this one. But, it's the people don't realize why we are truly in the situation that we're in. Okay. They don't, it comes down to voting. And I hated to see today on Fox News with the polls, when they talk about the number one thing people are worried about, talk about jobs and the economy and taxes. It doesn't matter, because that's not how they voted. It's not how they voted in 2020. It's not how they voted this last time around. Like, there is this, I don't know, man. The railroad track is broken somewhere in the middle. It's like, there's a path, right? And there's something broken in the middle there where they're not seeing, cause and effect. Hey, the reason you're in the situation that you're in is because you voted for these crappy policies. And with Biden, as long as he's been around, you already knew, everybody knew what he was going to do. Everybody knows what the platform of the left is. So that's why, when I look at my I look at my X handle, it's like, you're getting exactly what you voted for. Not,
Yeah.
obviously not everybody. I mean, there were a good 77, 78 million people that didn't, but there are what quoted 81 million people. You're getting exactly what you voted for. And until they come to that realization, it won't get fixed.
But okay, I'm going to frame this out and then you can answer the question. It's kind of a point, and then we'll see where what you think about it. So those people who deserve what they're getting, Josh loves to say that, and I don't totally disagree. I disagree. We've had this conversation on the podcast before, but there is a certain portion of the electorate out there who voted for Biden and will vote for a Democrat again if Trump gets the nomination.
Sure.
Where if you ask them in a very honest setting and laid out what it would look like, and you ask them the question, would you rather have no country at all, just have this all implode on itself, or have Trump be president again? There's a certain portion that would say this all needs to implode because that would be better than if Trump is president again. They really believe that. So it's like do you deserve what you get? They don't care. They don't care because, well, it's better than Trump. And even though they can't articulate exactly why, not in any, it's like to George Bush. It was the same thing with George W. Bush. People said, I hate Bush, and they couldn't articulate why. I would ask them, I would, do the Socratic method on him, and they could not say it. Well, he's just dumb. Okay, so you don't like, okay, so how's he dumb? Well, he doesn't speak well. Okay, he doesn't speak well, but, it just, so what do you think? I mean, do you agree with that? Or what do you think the percentage is that's like, we would rather have no president at all and just have no executive branch than have Trump be elected again? So it doesn't matter who they put up there. It doesn't matter who. It could be Biden. It could be anybody. Like, what do you think the percentage is?
It's probably at least 40 to 50. We'll find out in the 2024 election.
40 to 50 of people who are going to vote for
percent. Yeah. It's 40 to 50%, if not more. Right. It just, whatever the number that he gets for his, because you know what, again, we've talked about this ad nauseum, but Trump, like him, love him, hate him, whatever. At this point, Kermit the Frog could run as Biden's opponent. And that's how I would vote because, my wallet, our country cannot continue down the same path of what we've just witnessed for the last 2.5 going on 3 years. You can't continue that. You have to make a change and to vote for 4 more years of that. But you're going to find, dude, that somewhere between 75 and 85 million people are going to vote that way regardless.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the turnout is. I'm slowly coming to the realization that it is going to be Trump. Unless something crazy happens, it's going to be Trump. And
absolutely,
it'll be very interesting to see what the voting turnout is this time. And I would be a bit surprised if it's lower than last time, significantly on both sides, Republican and Democrat. It wouldn't surprise me. We'll see. We'll see what happens. If you want to lay out real quick, since Josh isn't here, we can talk about the 2024 race, but he's vowed not to talk about it anymore. But it does get old talking about it, but things tend to change. Polls come out. I don't trust polls very much. I know I live in an echo chamber somewhat. I live in a very red part of the country, so I don't really see the other side. But if you want to lay out, because you're always really good at laying this out, like within the electoral college, if it's Trump, where do you see that path to victory for him?
Well, and that's been my, when I talk to Josh and we talk to Josh and we go back and forth, you look at pros and cons of DeSantis over Trump and this and that. The road for Trump, and any of them, okay, if you look at what the map looks like right now, it goes through Georgia and Pennsylvania. That's it. You win Georgia and Pennsylvania, places like Arizona, Colorado, Nevada, they don't matter. Right. As long as you carry, obviously, your Texas and Floridas and what have you. And I think Ron is pretty much guaranteed a red Florida, at least for this next cycle. Who knows what happens after that? If you don't win Georgia or you don't win Pennsylvania, and specifically Pennsylvania, because I think Pennsylvania is like 20 electoral votes off the top of my head, the math becomes a lot trickier because then you have to win a Wisconsin. You got to win a Michigan. You throw in Arizona, you need a combination. And when I say combination, it's not just two. Depending on that path, you might need three. That becomes difficult because no matter who you are, right? Unless you're Ronald Reagan, to win like a Michigan, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada becomes very tough for any party. Well, I mean, Joe did it last time, but the time before that, Trump split it up, right? So the path for them, for any GOP candidate, is going to run through Georgia and through Pennsylvania. You have to win. Mike Tomlin said it today, which, by the way, Matt Canada was fired today as the offensive coordinator for the Steelers. I hate the fact that the guy is unemployed, but we should have done this during the offseason. But we are a results-oriented country, or should be, election-wise. And you got to win, right? You have to win, because if you don't win, it's not going to matter. I think Trump carries Georgia. I don't think he carries Pennsylvania. And if he doesn't carry Pennsylvania, then that's when you bring in he didn't carry Pennsylvania. You really think he's going to carry Wisconsin? You think he's going to carry a Michigan? He could probably carry Arizona. You think he's going to carry a Nevada? You think he's going to carry a Colorado? It just becomes very, very difficult. Whereas I think when you look at Ron DeSantis running, I think he carries Georgia, and I think he fairly easily carries Pennsylvania. And I think he actually could carry a Michigan. I think he carries Arizona. He possibly could carry a Nevada. So anyway, I think the path opens up for him a lot more. I just think it's very, what I don't want to have happen is this, and we talked about this, during our text. The GOP needs to get off its asses. And I'm not talking about just on a national level, but also on a local level. Because not only do you need to win the presidency, you need to win both houses. Now, we should be in good shape, I say should, air quotes, with the Senate because, Joe Manchin said he's not going to run. That is going to be a red Senate seat. Now that brings in Arizona into play because Sinema looks like she's going to run as an independent party. You got Ruben Gallego, who's going to be the Democrat. And then you've got Carrie Lake, God bless her, I think is going to be the Republican candidate. That is your 51st senator right there. And then the GOP needs to work on keeping the House and actually plussing up the House, because what's going to end up happening is, let's say Trump wins. He's the nominee. He wins the presidency. He's sworn in, and we have a divided House. It will be a lame duck 4 years. Guarantee it. First of all, his last year or 18 months is going to be lame duck anyway, because he's going to be a one-term president, and you're already looking at 2028, right? Just like now. And then his first 2 years, if you don't have complete control of the House and the Senate, nothing will pass. So you're going to live with another 4 years of just a lame duck presidency where basically nothing gets accomplished.
Except executive orders.
Yeah.
Which can be devastating. There's a few on the books that are not that great. I don't know. I don't track that as close as you do. I don't know. I think that Trump, if he could run his campaign like Biden ran his campaign in 2020, he'd be fine. I think he'd win. I really do. If he just ran his campaign from the basement, came out every once in a while, said something, reserved, whatever, and put all the focus on Biden and just the multitude of failures that started since basically, day one with his appointments. I think Trump can't get out of his own way. And if the race is about Trump, I think that makes it less likely for him to win. You said Pennsylvania. I think it's funny that Fetterman lately, some of his stances and some of the stuff he's coming out on is actually kind of makes a lot of sense. His stance on Israel, he came out with something today I read. It's like, I actually agree with Fetterman on this. I know it's not him saying it, but, his people are putting the talking points in front of him. He is saying the right things. So, it's just odd. I wonder if that's a play for, the next election and all that stuff. I don't know. But another guy I want to give some props to lately within the Biden administration is the National Security Council spokesman, John Kirby. That guy, when talking to, I got to give credit where credit's due. Most of the time, like when he's talking about Ukraine, it's just like, bro, God, shit. So off base.
Are we still at war over there? Or are they still at war over there? Because I haven't heard anything about Ukraine and Russia.
Like I said in the text, bro, that's so May 2013. Get with the time. May 2013 called it once it's it wants its major issue back. But man, John Kirby, when he's talking about what's going on in the Middle East right now, he is pulling no punches. He's I agree with like almost everything he's saying when it comes to that. Uh, so props to him. I mean, you can't hate everyone just because if they're saying something right, you can't just hate them because they're associated with someone else. If they're speaking the truth, they're speaking the truth, and you got to acknowledge that. So I'm going to throw that out there. It's like I'm not going to throw any shade at John Kirby on how he's handling the situation in the Middle East. Which, by the way, did you see that an AC-130 effed up some terrorists, some Iranian-backed militias in Iraq? Did you see that?
I didn't, but it's about
Oh,
time,
dude.
man.
Yeah, down near, I think it was Ramadi. Um, an AC-130 just smoked. They were like a vehicle, and it's like, yeah, that's kind of an overkill. AC-130 wiped out a vehicle. Jeez. Yeah, shout out to Robert who's still over there. But anyway, it's gonna be interesting. I do think that I still think there's gonna be some black swan. But at this point, it's getting kind of late in the game because a lot of the states have already, it's too late to declare, right? Some of them at least.
Yeah, and that's what they were talking about with to run. If you're going to switch out Biden, because they have their own rules to make their ballot, that I think there's already a handful that you can't be on there already. And I think he's not even going to be on the New Hampshire primary. We all know how that played out, South Carolina, and what's his face down there that gave him his backing. But to close that on that real quick. So, and this is where the math gets tricky. So Pennsylvania is 19 electoral votes. Okay. So let's say you win Georgia at 16 votes. Pennsylvania is 19. Here's the issue. Wisconsin is 10. Arizona is 11. Nevada is only 6. So if you won Wisconsin and Nevada, you don't win. You have to sweep all 3. Same thing with Arizona and Nevada. That's 17. You have to sweep all 3. So you have to win Wisconsin and Arizona at that time. So now you've thrown in 2 other states that, Wisconsin right now is 50-50 and Arizona is 50-50. But so is Pennsylvania, Georgia, and Nevada. Nevada's there. It's not really, I don't think, so much of a play unless some of these other states do something wonky like New Mexico. But New Mexico looks like it's going to lean Democrat. And great, it's still early, right? A lot can happen between now and then. So we're just looking at the polls. But, California is going to vote blue. Okay. Texas is going to vote red. So we know a lot of these things. So really, you're looking at Pennsylvania, Georgia, Wisconsin, Arizona, Nevada. Georgia, I think, goes red. Pennsylvania, if it doesn't go red, man, it's going to be extremely tough unless you pull a surprise in some place like Michigan or something like that. Going back to John Kirby, and I think we said this a couple episodes ago, that the administration has come out and taking a fairly forceful stance against Hamas. And there is because there is an education piece that has to happen where you're walking a tightrope where they are trying to separate the difference between the Palestinians and Hamas, which, our last episode, we talked about that. Really, realistically, it's one and the same. And they're trying to walk that line a little bit. You've got some members of Congress, obviously, that support the Palestinians. But, Kirby, he retired as a rear admiral in the Navy. I mean, the dude did like 28 years, did multiple tours in the Middle East. So he comes from it'd be like us talking about Afghanistan. Like, he knows the deal. He knows what's going on. And the reality is he should be the press secretary. I mean, I'm not a huge Kirby fan, but the guy's got a pretty good demeanor up there. He does have a pretty level head. And, one thing is, I'm not going to accuse Kirby of being dumb. I mean, the guy knows what he's talking about, right? And you have to understand where it's coming from, that, hey, he does have talking points from the administration that he needs to throw out there. It's funny because you start to see, one, KJP, I mean, I can't believe she's lasted as long as she has. You probably say the same thing for Kamala Harris, but that's probably why you see more and more of John Kirby, because the guy can think on his feet. He's got the experience. He's a smart dude. And for most of the stuff that I've heard him respond to, he's pretty realistic and he's pretty middle of the road, unless he has a specific talking point. I think when we turned over Bagram Airport to the Taliban, I remember we had the planes there and we were refueling, and they're like, Taliban has control of the airport and this and that. And they're like, so we're one of the reporters. So we're buying gas from the Taliban. And you can kind of see him chuckle. He's like, yep, that's a good question. Not answering that, but you could see he's like, yeah, that's a good question. And it
So,
goes, it's like even with sorry to cut you off, but like even Anthony Blinken. Did you see the video where Biden's
oh
talking
yeah,
about Xi Jinping and he calls him a
dictator.
dictator again? And you see that look, and
He's
he's
like,
just like,
and he knew cameras were on him, and he could not help himself, dude. That was
absolutely.
that. That was that. That response. The limbic system. He could not help himself. It's like, dude, he knew cameras were on him, and he just that was it. That was his honest reaction. If he would have been in a room alone, he would have lost his mind. He would have
Oh
lost
yeah,
his
there'd
mind.
have been some f bombs. Like you.
Slammed his head in the wall. So a couple of things I want to ask you. So number one, and I can remind you of these. Uh, maybe just stick with one for now. So we've got. I'm not even going to mention uh, the names, but there are a couple of old school conservatives who listen to this podcast, like old school, like George H.W. Bush, were the good old days. Um, Type conservatives who are what would you call them? Orthodox, right? Very orthodox.
Sure.
So, who do you think in the field who don't like Trump? They'll vote for Trump because they know, if he's the nominee, they know the deal.
Nikki Haley.
Really, that's who they go
Already know
with.
where you're going. Yeah.
Really,
And I don't know why. I mean, I don't see it should be DeSantis. Um, but I think they see, and you know what? Finish your question. I cut you off, and
no, no,
half of
no.
this is
That
like,
that
what the hell
that
are you
was
talking
it.
about?
That was it. So maybe it's Nikki Haley because establishment. That's what I should have said.
Yeah.
Not orthodox. Establishment conservatives who trust the system, trust the process, right? Um, so maybe it's because Nikki Haley is more establishment type. Maybe that's why they're like, well, Ron DeSantis, he's not really establishment. He's more of a governor type thing. Is that maybe
Yeah.
why you think? Yeah, I wonder if the person listening to this knows when they hear this, if they'll know.
Yeah. And when I mean, you look at, her political career, and I don't, I'm not well versed in Nikki Haley as far as all of her background. We obviously know the assignments that she served, but a lot of times just relationships, right? Who she served under, where way back in the day, who was her mentor, that type of stuff. And Ron, with what he's done down in Florida, he has shown to be a guy that I honestly believe is, and I thought people are gonna laugh. I throw him in the same category as I throw with George Bush, where I think the guy's doing what he honestly believes is right.
George W.
Uh,
Bush.
yeah, George W.
Yeah,
Bush.
yeah.
So, you may not agree with everything that Ron's doing, and sometimes it doesn't work out as conservative as you would like it to be, but he's doing what he thinks is the right thing. Whereas I think Nikki Haley is more of a party line gal, which, by the way, I'm going to tell you this right now, and I didn't take notes on this, so you may have more info on more quotes or whatever, but her campaign, her candidacy should be over. Like with the social media thing where she's talking about day one, everybody's going to have to register with their true name. And then you pointed it out. I think it was you or Josh, one of the two of you pointed out that, her quote that, well, I don't mind anonymous, registrations on social media. I don't mind. Meaning I'm giving you permission that you can go on to. So one, you would never be able to, and that just shows you how ignorant they are. You would never be able to enforce or enact that. VPNs, there's too many workarounds, all that stuff. But it's like, hey man, whatever happened to like the First Amendment and freedom of speech? I don't mind. And I think I put it in a text back to one of you guys that they had a group there on Fox News, and they were talking to them, and the lady literally was like, I know it might be unconstitutional, but it's harder for me to say something nasty to her, talking about the lady sitting next to her, if she knows my real name. That literally came out of her mouth, and that shows you right there. I sit here and I wonder, and maybe we're out of touch. I wonder, how does Nikki Haley have so much support? That's how she has so much support, because you got people that believe in that. It should
Yeah.
be over, dude. It should be over.
The freedom versus security thing, right? It's like the more security you have, and people, I agree with Josh on this one. People just want to be secured. They want to go to, and hey, I can't say I blame them. I completely understand that. I get it. I don't want to live in fear. And if I've got to give up my freedom in order to not live in fear, that's a lot. That's very easy for a lot of Americans to say. And that's why I get worked up. Yep, I got to silence my phone. Sorry about that, folks. People who have a lot to say about, I want to live in freedom. Freedom, freedom. Americans want to say that who have never suffered once in their lives. They've never gone hungry once in their lives. You know, uh, we have lived a pampered life. Even the redneck who has all the guns and everything, they're pampered. You don't know what it's like to truly live in fear when you're going, walking down to get, a mile and a half to get water, and you don't know which warlord is in charge of that road that day,
Yep.
and based on what tribe you're from, you might get your head blown off. You don't know what that's like. So it's like there is something to be said about living without fear, right? And I think
Sure.
at a base level, we saw that a lot with the Patriot Act, right? It's like people were willing. It's just like, yeah, whatever it takes, man. I don't see that again, no matter what. Hey, I'm not saying anything bad on the phone. Why should I worry about it? I got nothing to fear. They're willing to give that up because I get where they're coming from because I get where they're coming from. I don't agree with it, but I get where they're coming from because, dude, yeah, I mean, look at history. People will give up a lot just so they have a full belly. I've always said this, man. As long as Joe Sixpack, the average person, has a relatively full belly, AC, climate control in their house, and a refrigerator that's full, they'll put up with a lot of stuff, and access to internet. They'll put up with a lot of stuff, man, as long as they have those securities. So I get it. We saw it. I mean, 2002 with the Patriot Act, we saw it. And even back then, that's when I kind of started to wake up to politics. I'm like, wait a minute, this doesn't seem right. Even though I was completely on the flag waving, all
Yeah,
terrorists must
absolutely.
die, and I'm still am, but
Yep.
well, you can learn from your youth. You can learn from the mistakes of your youth, and I have, and I'm a lot more wary now. So when I hear that stuff coming out of Nikki Haley's mouth, and then she says something stupid like, "Let's bring all," we need to welcome Palestinians here with open arms. It's like, oh God, you don't know what you're saying. You really don't know what you're saying. You remember
It's
she
the
said that
ignorance.
early on. Good
Ignorance.
Lord, it's like, we have to acknowledge, not to bounce around too much. We have to acknowledge that there is not everything is relative. Some cultures are better than others historically. Some
Sure.
cultures are more secure than others. Some cultures are more educated and stable than others. And I am here to tell you that the Palestinian culture is not stable. We've got a listener now who she's an occasional listener. She's Palestinian. She's Palestinian Arab, immigrated to the States when she was 9 years old. Her dad's pretty hardline. Well, not hardline, but he was a Muslim, right? But she started getting westernized. She's the most westernized Palestinian Arab you'll ever meet because she's a Christian. She converted to Christianity. And she'll be the first one to tell you, I know my people. I know my people, and they're crazy. And in order to make that cultural shift for the Palestinian people it would take something monumental, and it would take generations to get that out of that culture. They're a mess. Egypt won't take them. Jordan won't take any more of them because they know if we take all these people in, they'll mess up our country. They will truly mess up our country because
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, this is going to, people just say, oh, you're racist. It's like, well, first of all,
Look around the world. Look at what's happening.
Palestinian is not really a race. Okay. They're Arabs, but whatever. I'm not labeling all Arabs like that. Just the Palestinians. They got a lot of problems historically, but
Hey,
whatever.
I've read enough of the Bible to know that you ain't fixing that. I don't even think it's monumental, right? I don't even think it's monumental. I mean,
I agree. I don't think it's fixable. It would take something that's never happened before ever. But whatever, it is what it is. I can't remember the second question I was going to ask you.
no, I don't
I
know,
didn't
but I
write it
wanted
down.
to dovetail because you did a pretty good. I think it was you, maybe it was Josh. Slippery slope post on.
I was going to read that.
Okay, you should read that because one of the things when you talk about the Patriot Act, you talk about Nikki Haley, the social media. By the way, it came out in the news today too. They were talking about, was it Section 20 or 230 that they're renewing that? There's really no changes to it or whatever. I won't get into slippery slope. I'll let you do that because I thought it was a fantastic post. But here is why you cannot give an inch. Okay. And I'm going to tell you this is what pisses me off out here. One, voting has consequences. Thank God Arizona has a red state legislature, because the AG Hayes, or Mays, sorry, wants to enact red flag laws here in Arizona. Okay, which we've already talked about that ad nauseum, lack of due process, yada yada yada. But not just regular red flag laws. She wants to extend them to people that you know and people you were around, i.e., Luke's having a tough day today. Okay, I think he's a little bit high strung. He might be going off the edge there. So I'm going to call the local sheriff who's going to come down without due process and take his guns. Well, Luke lives with Michelle. Michelle has guns. And because they're in the same house, they're going to take her guns. And oh, by the way, because Luke goes to visit his parents that live an hour away and they have guns, then they're going to go there to their house and take their guns as well. And oh, by the way, your best friend is your neighbor who has guns. You would have access to those guns. So we're just basically going to have a whole lot of people out there and that's their goal, right? They just want to take all the guns. That's the whole point. And so I'll let you get into your slippery slope thing, but when you talk about, and that's a great segue, you talk about the Patriot Act and the things that Nikki Haley's saying, that's where that goes to. And I tell you, when it comes to this, and I'm a big Josh supporter when it comes to this, you cannot give an inch. You cannot give 1 inch, because if you give an inch, they're going to take a yard. This is the first time I've ever heard of anything like this. And I tell you this, it will not be the last. And I feel sorry for the places that already have red flag laws on the books, because if you've already got red flag laws on the books, I'm assuming that some type of amendment making it stricter is not going to take an entire legislative process. It's probably more of some type of gubernatorial executive order redefining some of the principles and statutes in that. So with that, I'll kick it to you for the slippery slope.
Well, red flag laws are easy, right? I mean, it's an easy solution. And believe it or not, my actual job, I'm dealing with not red flag laws, but is private sector. But it's very easy to label an entire population as one thing. It's just easy, broad stroke, right? But I've been doing a lot of research into felonies, right? And it's just like, dude, in some states already, you probably know this, if your spouse or family member commits a felony and they're a felon living in the house, you can't have guns. You can't have guns in the house. And some of the stuff that will, you can be convicted of a felony. It's like, that's why I always cringe at felons shouldn't own guns ever, no matter what, or felons shouldn't be able to vote no matter what. It's like, geez, man. I mean, it is possible to be rehabilitated. I mean, it's just broad stroke, right? It's a very broad stroke. And I don't know, slippery slope. So I made this post, I think back in 2020 or 2020, it was probably 2020. And it was when there was just a lot of stuff going on, the Russia collusion and, the Hunter Biden stuff. And there was a lot of terms. I'll just read the post. And I think it applies today. It popped up in my memories. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to post that again. I put it on X. And, I encourage people, because these terms, people use them and they don't know what they're talking about. They really don't. They paint it with a broad brush. So let's just get into it. All right. So here we go. Let's talk about circumstantial evidence, anecdotal evidence, and slippery slopes, terms that are recklessly being bandied about of late. You're home alone, laying in bed, about to fall asleep. You hear a smoke alarm go off. That is circumstantial evidence there may be a fire in your house. Based on this circumstantial evidence, do you get up to find out the cause of the smoke alarm going off? Now take the same situation with a smoke alarm, coupled with the fact you smell either smoke or something burning. This is also circumstantial evidence that there may be a fire in your house. Again, do you get up to try to verify the cause of these two forms of circumstantial evidence? Now, let's say you get out of bed, walk to the living room where you suspect the smoke alarm is going off. In the living room, you see the couch on fire. According to anyone else other than you, this is anecdotal evidence of a fire in your home. You call 911 and tell them what you witnessed or witnessing. Do they ask if more than one person saw or sees the fire? No, they come out and deal with the situation. All right, so that's circumstantial evidence and anecdotal evidence. Now let's talk about slippery slope. Many quote unquote smart people on Facebook and X love to point out that slippery slope is a logical fallacy and dismiss out of hand any claims or arguments that contain a premise based on slippery slope. I'm going to take a break right here. A lot of times, maybe you'll make a post and you're like, if we go down this path, it's going to end up this way. And then some smartass will get on and say, that's slippery slope. That's a logical fallacy. I want you to go to X the next time somebody get on our page. I pinned this. You can copy and paste this and send it right back to them, because I didn't just write this off the top of my dome. I took some time looking up the terms, getting out my old college textbooks about formal logic. So stick with me here. Back to the post. First of all, I posit that slippery slope can simply be a critical thinking tool involving historical reference. It does not always have to be taken in a formal logic context. Plenty of historical examples are available of slippery slopes. Reach out to me if you'd like a few. When many use the slippery slope method of critical thinking, or as a premise in an argument or decision, it is akin to the adage said by Winston Churchill and many others: those who fail to learn from history are doomed to repeat it. No one ever questions the sage words of that famous British statement, let alone Spanish philosopher George Santayana or Irish statesman Edmund Burke, begging to differ with their logic. So let's take it a step further and dissect slippery slope from a formal logic standpoint. Stick with me here. This may get boring. Slippery slope is considered an informal logical fallacy. Through this lens, slippery slope is considered a reasoning error, but not an actual flaw in logical form. One must remember that a deductive argument containing an informal fallacy can still be valid. An argument is valid if and only if it takes a form that makes it impossible for the premises to be true and the conclusion nevertheless to be false. Many who consider themselves much smarter than me would say that a valid deductive argument using an informal fallacy as a premise will be less rationally persuasive if one of the premises is something like slippery slope. I disagree. If slippery slope is using a deductive argument as a method of critical thinking, as outlined in the paragraph above, I believe the argument can be more rationally persuasive as a historical reference can lend credibility to the claim. So it's like, look, yes, it is a logical fallacy, but you can use it in an argument as a historical reference and your point can still be true. That's the bottom line. So it's like slippery slope is confirmed in history. You can look back and say, this is what actually happened, but it's still a fallacy. Okay, well, but I can still use it as a historical reference and use it within my reasoning. So anybody who's a smart ass and comes across, and says, well, you can't use slippery slope, copy and paste those two paragraphs and put them in their place.
That was well thought out too. When I read it, I was like, it was spot on, because here's the deal with slippery slope. And this is where, their claim that's a logical fallacy is wrong. Okay. And hey, I get it, man. We're just a couple nugs, 3 nugs on C3 that run some, Bush League podcast. Who are we to argue with Purdue and, Harvard? And this slippery slope is focused around the initial action and the end result. Mm-hmm. And it disregards the chain of events, right? Because that's the slope. It's a chain of events. If I do this, it'll lead to this. If I do this, it'll lead to that. And it disregards, and that's what you're saying. This is a lot simpler, a little cleaner, I think, but it disregards all the other chain of events. So where the fallacy comes in, maybe, and like you said, there's plenty of historical reference where this isn't the case, is okay, maybe that end result might be jumping to a little bit of a conclusion, which again, oftentimes it's not. It doesn't mean that all the other chain of events don't happen, right? And I'll show you an example. I did a quick Google while you did that. Now this comes from, owl.excelsior.edu, which is pretty, legit website I used a lot in my college days or whatever. But so here's their example. If you don't pass tomorrow's math exam, then you can't take calculus next year. If you don't take calculus, you won't be accepted to the master's program you want. Therefore, if you fail tomorrow's math test, you won't get a master's degree. So again, they are focused. And then it says, see Dr. Fallacy in the comment below, try to get away with this fallacy. Fortunately, Captain Logic saves logic and saves the day. So let me break this down for Captain Logic. Okay. So they are focused on, if you don't pass tomorrow's math exam, and this is where they make the leap, you won't get a master's degree ever. Okay. Now that might be a leap, because clearly you can get a master's degree somewhere else. Here is a fact. Okay. along, given the context that we have here. If you don't pass tomorrow's math exam, then you can't take calculus. Hey, that is going to be a cut and dry objective, right? If I don't pass this, if I fail this grade, I will not go on to the next grade. That is a fact. If you don't take calculus, you won't get accepted to the master's degree program that you want. That is probably a fact. If you don't pass the SATs, if you don't pass the ACTs, fact is you're not going to get into the college that you want. Does it mean that you'll never get a college degree? Of course not. But those chain of events there can still happen. And this here, they only throw two chain of events. There could be 15 chain of events in there. They're just focused. The fallacy part just comes down with the last one. Hey, you know what? The last one was wrong. Yeah, but the other 14 came true.
Yeah, dude. Okay, right? So this is where I start getting worked up because I hate admitting this, but one of my majors in college was philosophy. As Michael knows, we took our first philosophy class together, and it was great because those sophomore level philosophy classes were, what's the meaning of life, bro? It was cool because we didn't talk about logic, not much anyway. By the time, so I was hooked. I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this philosophy thing, right? Because I love it. It's really great talking about the truth and the mysteries of knowledge and beauty and things like that. I was taken in. So I get into those junior level classes, and you show up your first day, and there's all the hippies, for lack of a better word, in there. Hey, bro, what if CAT spelled dog? Those people were in there, and then there were some other folks in the class who were dressed up kind of nice, like business casual. I'm like, what's going on here? Because I'm just a normal college student. And then we started getting into formal logic where you have to prove all your arguments, like formally. It's like math. There are symbols for all these things. If and only if, then, all this stuff. So by my senior level classes, like philosophy of language was one of the hardest classes I've ever taken, because if I didn't pay attention for 2 minutes, I was lost for an hour and a half. And there were only like 4 people in that class, and all of them were wearing suits because they were going to intern at a law firm after class. And I learned that most law students and people who want to study law major in philosophy because they teach you logic. But logic is like math, okay? And this is where I start getting upset, because logic is a lot like math, okay? Like the example you just laid out, Roger, it's like you can formally write all this stuff out and disprove an argument. It's like, well, that's a logical, that's a mistake. And I guarantee Ted is following this. Teddy is following this, and he's like going to just kill me when I say this. But logic's like math in that there's stuff that can be proven in mathematics. Like you hear the woke term, well, 2 + 2 can actually equal 5. Well, mathematically, yes. I had somebody on X prove to me, and this person knew math. And I had to look it up, and I had to use ChatGPT. And I'm like, what does this mean? And sure enough, yeah, 2 + 2 can equal 5 in a mathematical world. So I asked this person the question. I was like, how can this be applied in the physical world? Can this be applied in the physical world? Well, no. Well, then I'm just going to stop talking to you then, because this is not a real thing we're talking about. We're talking about something in the ether that can't be practically applied. You can't give me a single way this is practically applied. It's the same thing with logic. That what you just laid out, it's like, well, yeah, I can prove your argument wrong with formal logic. Not necessarily wrong, but like, I can't remember the term for it. I'm blanking out on my formal logic studies in college. I can prove that this is a flawed argument. Doesn't make it not true. If you don't score this, true in the real world. If you don't score this, you're not going to get into that. And then this is going to happen. You can still get a master's degree. You can still be rich, but it's not going to go the way you think. So when somebody's trying to be all smart with you with 2 + 2 = 5 and this formal logic nonsense, you say, how does this apply to the real world? And if they can't give you an example, shut them off. Get out of the conversation immediately.
And, I guess, and I'm thinking of this as you brought it up because it's a good point. Somebody says the slippery slope fallacy, I would probably turn right back around and ask, well, can you define deductive reasoning for me? Because that's what it is, right? It's a series of deductive reasonings. Now, again, The end result may change 4 or 5 things, but historically, a lot of times it doesn't, and it doesn't mean those other 5 or 10 things don't happen. And that's the problem with a lot of this stuff is, they good, bad, and different doesn't mean it ain't true, right? And there's so much in the past. Hey, if you and you apply this to like the Second Amendment, hey man, there are plenty, and I think we even posted it a couple months ago, maybe a year ago. There are plenty of historical examples that when the government takes your guns, guess what? You're about to be oppressed. It's the old the U.S. is about to free the shit out of you. That's probably what's going to happen. And there are plenty of historical references that your government takes your guns from you. They're about to oppress the shit out of you, man. It's going to happen. I mean, that's a fact. I do want to
Yeah.
lighten it up a little bit, though. I want to lighten it up. We got a few minutes left here. Well, now you know what? Before we lighten it up, I've had this on my notes for about 3 episodes now, and I want to get your take on it because, I'll get your take and then I'll tell you where the stance is out here. So, I think it was an Arizona ruling, and I could be wrong. So, for our listeners out there, correct me. But I think it was an Arizona ruling that came out and said that clergy do not have to report rapes and sex crimes. Teachers do, right? So we're talking about is, Luke did something heinous. He's a Catholic. He goes to confess. He says, hey, I did this to this person. It's obviously against the law. It's a rape. It's a sex crime, whatever. And that clergy, that priest cannot be forced to report that incident. And I think it may even go farther where they can't even be forced to testify or provide any evidence. What's your thoughts on that?
That's complicated, man, because it's complicated because it's the same thing as not the same thing. It's similar to Apple not giving the passcodes to the phone of to the FBI or the phone of a terrorist, right? Because it undermines the whole, doctor patient, whatever, and the whole confidentiality that you have with a lawyer, that you have with a priest or a clergy, things like that. It's complicated, man. My first thought, I have to think about this a lot because you just sprang this on me. My first thought is I agree with that to a point because it kind of undermines the whole confidentiality thing. But at the same time, these people have to realize, especially with rape, I learned a lot, man. I learned more than over this past week because of my job. I learned more than I ever wanted to know about the sexual offense registry and what that means. And what I did not know, Roger, it's almost counterintuitive, is that did you know that of all felons, sex offenders as a whole, as the whole group, sex offenders are they have the least amount of recidivism. I had no idea.
I didn't
I
either.
had no idea if you take it as a whole, because there are a lot of different sex crimes, a lot. Because we learned and we know that people who commit rape, right, have probably committed one in the past. It's probably not their first. So that leads you down the logic in your mind. You're like, oh, well, all sex offenders are recidivists, right? Well, not necessarily. We're talking about sexual assault here. So the clerk, but at the same time, if someone's reporting a rape, it's probably not. This is the problem I had with the Army SHARP program: is they're restricted versus non-restricted, right? Reporting. Restricted was the SHARP representative does not have to report that to the chain of command who the person was because fear of reprisal and things like that. Non-restricted was they can report it and the victim has that choice, right? And I understand it's a very tough thing and that's up to the victim, and I understand. But my whole thing with that was, well, what you're teaching us is people who rape are probably going to do it again. And if that person isn't stopped, you're creating another victim. You're creating a potential victim out there. So, but that every time I'd bring that up in a SHARP briefing, the SHARP representative's brain would malfunction and they didn't know what to say. I was like, well, you need to change the whole approach to this. And then going back to the clergy, it's like they have to understand and do the right thing and counsel the victim, make them understand this happened to you. Do you want it to happen to someone else? I know you fear reprisal. I understand that. I am here for you. I'm going to create a support structure for you to make sure nothing's going to happen. Should have happened with Army Sharp too, and Air Force, all DoD, and report it and get that person off the streets. It's a complicated issue. I do respect the confidentiality, but it's tough. What do you think, man? That probably went deeper than where you wanted it to go. But
no, so what is that protected under? I mean, is that protected under the First Amendment then? I mean, legally, would it be protected under the First Amendment?
Like, so what the clergy is protected?
Let's say lawyer client, because I'm going to use the slippery slope fallacy, right? With this, is that protected? We'd have to do a little bit of digging, find out what is the legal basis for that stuff.
I don't know. Freedom of speech, I don't know. We'd have to look into that. This is where Josh would be good in this one, because he'd come out with, oh no, that's covered under the 26th Amendment.
Yeah.
Or something.
So the formal name is the clergy-penitent privilege, right? And it's very similar to what Luke brought up with the client attorney privilege. And I think that's my problem with that is, and this is, it's always the extremes that ruin it. I mean, it's easy to make laws that make sense, common sense, but you always have an extreme, and it's just like, well, people are going to take advantage of it. And it was an LDS member out here. It was one of the LDS clergy. So I was just looking it up. They went to the Arizona Supreme Court, and they basically said, hey, it's very similar to client attorney privilege. And that's the slippery slope. I mean, I'm a little torn, because if they're able to get rid of the clergy penitent privilege, then if I'm your attorney and you confess to me and I know you did it, I know you're guilty of sin, pun not intended. At what point can they legally make me, as your attorney, like, hey man, he confessed to you, like, that he's guilty, like, I'm going to be able to depose you.
Okay. Right? I was approaching it from a victim standpoint. So this changes not everything, but this changes my thought process, because I was approaching it like the Army Sharp thing, where the victim comes in. It's like father, or whatever that Mormon,
right,
whatever they call him. Hey, father, I was raped by John Smith. I'm about to step on my crank here. I was raped by John Doe. I was thinking the clergy, it's like they don't have to go to the authorities with John Doe's identity. But if John Doe comes in and says, forgive me for I have sinned, I raped, Jane Doe. I wasn't thinking
it works both ways. It works both ways. I didn't even think about the way you did, but it works both ways, because theoretically you'd be required to report it either way, right? I mean,
you really lighten this up, all right.
Yeah, well, I do. I'm going to move on to a lighter thing, but I was just thinking about it because I saw the case on here. I'm like, man, I don't know how I really feel about that, and generally speaking, the conservatives out here are just like, hey man, sorry, clergy penitent privileges, it just is what it is. And then, you get a lot of the left that are like, no, this is what the Republicans want and this and that. But I do see hey, if they find a way to restrict that and make that reportable, one, people are just not going to confess it. That's the reality of it. Right. And the next thing is, well, whatever legalese they use to force that, dude, you're one step away. I mean, once you hit clergy, you're probably already beyond the attorney-client privilege. I mean, if you you confess to me, and let's say it's a sex crime, and I'm your attorney, and you confess, yeah, I was there and I did it, or whatever. At what point can they say, well, hey man, we get to depose you and tell us everything that your client told you? So, another slippery slope fallacy doesn't mean that it won't happen.
Real quick before you bring up your lighter topic, let's talk about real quick something I said we were going to talk about. You said you hated the term artificial intelligence. I hate it too.
You know what? We can do that. Go down that road.
It's advanced. I don't think it's AI. AI involves passing the Turing test, and we won't get into the specifics of that because it's very complex. Turing test is if a machine can fool a human into, like, under very strict laboratory type circumstances, can fool a human into thinking that they're talking to another human. And it's a lot more complicated than you think, because there's very strict guidelines on that. AI does not exist yet that we know of. If it does, we're in trouble. If it does. What's going on right now is machine learning, which is not the same thing as, you know, consciousness, right? And a lot of people postulate that in order to pass the Turing test, it's got to think like a human. Therefore, it has to have a consciousness. But anyway, so what we have now with ChatGPT, OpenAI, all that stuff is extremely advanced algorithms with max computing power, giant cloud with advanced, like just massive computing power compared to what we had, even 5 years ago. So it may look very intelligent, but it's not. It's not. It's not true AI. So I have a problem with the terminology too. But I'll say I have been using ChatGPT. I've been using it, and it has actually made me productive in certain areas. Because to write, something like I wrote earlier, or that I read earlier about, the evidence and the slippery slope. ChatGPT could help with that. I don't think it would. It would help me construct that, right? It wouldn't write it all for me. I'd have to take certain parts out, and tailor it to the argument I'm making. And I have actually used that for my work. It doesn't do the work for me, but it's a queuing device. It's like Wikipedia and Google on steroids. You enter the input and it spits something out, and you can use what it spits out. You're not going to use it word for word. It would be obvious you were doing that. But the more specific your parameters on what on the answer you want to get, the closer it's going to get. So I'm new to ChatGPT, but it is a tool I'm using. I told you,
Sure.
Roger, the other day, I have this idea for a book where all drugs are legalized, right? All drugs are legalized. So I'd like to start the book with like a bill, right? A bill that passes, that passes into law. So I asked ChatGPT, write me a bill that legalizes all narcotics. ChatGPT wouldn't do it. It refused to do it. It absolutely refused. And I actually had a conversation with ChatGPT. Why not? And it was actually having a conversation with me, but I got it into a loop, and I was like, this is a Turing test. I'm not talking to a human being. I'm talking to a program that's been programmed a certain way not to give an answer. So I tricked it. I think I tricked it into write a bill making, I can't remember what I said, but I tricked it into writing the bill, and I just replaced the word I used. I can't remember what it was, Roger. It might have been cigarettes.
I remember reading the text. I can't remember. Yeah. It may have been something like that.
It was either cigarettes or something, making all cigarettes federally legal. I can't remember what I did. It wasn't cigarettes, something else. It wrote it up, and all I did was replace cigarettes with narcotics, and it was the same thing. So I tricked the machine. But that basically, whoever programmed it considered a question like that too dangerous to answer. And it's like, why? I was like, why is this dangerous? And it spit out this answer. It was actually fun to play with. If you guys want to go down that road, it's fun. Get ChatGPT and ask it to write a bill legalizing all narcotics. It will not do it. And the reasons it gives don't make any freaking sense. So anyway, I think it's a good tool, but it's not going to solve all your problems. You are going to still have to do a little work, especially if you're not a good writer. It will really help you.
It's a fantastic tool. And I could see a huge use for it in like the medical community, right? Especially for surgeons and doctors, and you're looking at research and cancer research. Here's my problem with AI, artificial intelligence, the way that we're using it. I'd say probably about 99% of the way that I've seen it used, whether it be on the news, some of the articles you read on X and this and that. And I'm sure that, and I could be wrong. And again, some of our listeners may have some more info on this. I'd definitely be interested in reading it. But what we're seeing now with most of these programs, especially like with ChatGPT, it's an aggregator. Okay. It is operating off a predefined set of codes that was written. And it's got the ability to pull all of this data, on the internet together super, super fast and follow a pattern of writing and logic that we have programmed it to follow. Okay. When I look at true AI, and again, we got some folks that might be smarter in this, so I'm sure it's happening out there in some form. But when you look at AI, at least in my eyes, okay, that's three schmucks here on C3. It is the computer. I don't want to say observes, but it is able to take in a certain amount of actions, right? Whether it be through code, whether it be through visualization or OCR, that type of stuff. It basically digitizes that. It takes in that, and as opposed to operating on a predefined set of codes, it will create its own set of codes in response to that, and lack of a better term, in response to that stimulus that it's received, right? In response to the data set that it has taken in, because it can't observe anything. So it uses the camera, it uses whatever, it provides the input, it digitizes it. And based off of that, it creates its own set of codes to take the next set of actions based on whatever it's designed to do. That, in my mind, is AI. Okay. Operating with 1 million lines of code, if this, then that. Remember the IFTT or whatever, I think it's still out there. If this, then that is not AI. And it's been around for a long time. The problem is it's if then this, then that becomes then this, then that, then this, then that. It's more than just one action. So, I just hate to hear it, because it's like, dude, you're it's basically having online access to an encyclopedia that you're able to pull out in a quarter of a second, and spit it out in the format that we want you to spit it out in, as opposed to the machine actually taking in the data set, creating its own algorithm, its own coding to do whatever. And then you get into, if you go down that road, now you start to bring in morals and ethics, because is it truly AI if I have predefined what the objective of that machine is? If the machine, let's say, it does create code, right? If it creates its own code and algorithms to meet my predefined objectives, is that true AI? And if I don't provide it objectives and it just operates the way it needs to operate, that, in my mind, is closer to AI. Not necessarily the sense that we see it in. So I don't know. I think that's probably clear as mud. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Well, yeah, I think I'm following that, and I think I agree with most of it. I'll tell you what is fun though is the image generators. I haven't gotten to the point where I'll pay for one yet, but it is a lot of fun to play with. Like if you
Stable
go to
diffusion, dude. Stable
yeah,
diffusion.
Stable Diffusion is a good. Is it free?
It's free, and it's we've actually done some of our cover art off of Stable
Oh,
Diffusion.
okay. Well, if you go to our X page, our banner is AI generated. I typed in Culper's Canteen Cup, and it gave me a bunch of different images, and man, it's cool. I mean, I was like, that's cool. And it had a little flask on there. It just generated a flask, and next to a canteen cup, and there's like a cigar or something. And man, it's cool. And we had some followers like, we should get that flask made. And I'm like, yeah, because that flask is pretty cool. So I mean, it's a creative tool. I think it's kind of cool. I don't know. I don't see the end of the world yet. I do think that there are some safety measures being built in, especially by Microsoft. It's ridiculous. There's some stuff they won't generate because they see it as unsafe. But if you look at a lot of these AI generated images, they will not spell the words right. And like
Right.
like if I type in Culper's Canteen Cup, something will be misspelled. Something will be misspelled. And I do think that's a safety measure. I don't think the AI is that stupid where they just can't spell the word right. But yeah, I think that
Hey,
people
just
should get
think,
out.
you've got 80-year-old senators that are going to write a bill and pass this thing, regulating AI. They're going to do as good of a job with that as they did with crypto.
Oh my God. It's just, I do think that people should become familiar with it. I mean, I know we're all getting old. We're Gen Xers, but getting ahead of the power curve on this, I'm telling you, Gen Xers, apply your mind to it, just play around with it, and you will be ahead of Zoomers and millennials. You will, because they don't quite understand. A lot of them, the majority of them, don't quite understand exactly the implications of using the internet. They understand how to get around. They understand how to open an account. They understand how to get more likes, but they don't understand the practical application of it. I think we talked about it before. It's like, do you realize the information that you're seeking is literally at your fingertips? That's why that site, let me Google that for you. That's why it exists. It's like you have all the answers, factual answers anyway. So Roger, real quick, Did you see Joe Biden's official birthday picture? Did you see that?
No, I didn't. Is it
It
that
is
bad?
unbelievable. You should look it up. Joe he's got a cake. He's on the table. I don't know if you've seen like The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino, where his arms are spread out on the table. He's gripping both ends of it. He's about to, make Keanu Reeves sell him his soul. That's the pose that Joe Biden is in. There's a cake in front of him on this big table, and instead of doing the proper thing, which is, I think he just turned 81, right? The smart
Yep.
thing to do
81.
would be to put like the 7-year-old, when your kid turns 7 years old, you just get the 7 and you put the 7 in the middle and you light the candle, put an 8 and a 1 there and light the candle. But that would highlight the fact that he's 81 years old. And that's not a good look. So what did they do? They put 81 candles on this little cake and lit it on fire. And the thing looks like, you know what it looks like? It looks like that dog meme. This is fine.
Oh yeah,
Everything's okay.
it's burning in the background.
It's like this is the worst picture ever. And he's like looking at the camera, like, look at what I'm doing. I'm burning down the world. It is, whoever came up with this idea is just an absolute moron. So I don't know. I thought that was hilarious, man. His birthday, 81 years old. 81.
Oh, and you know what? Oh yeah, I do see it now. Holy cow! You've got to be. You're not kidding, dude. And now, of course, there's already memes that are coming on this thing. And the administration, and I get it, they're kind of trying to come out and downplay it. And like, oh, you're more concerned about his 81 years old than you are Trump's 91. You know what? It's not the age. I couldn't care less about the age. It's just I see mental decline as, a world leader, as our country's leader. I see it in front of my face. Okay. And I'm worried about him making the wrong decision. Because the president's got a lot of power, man, not just in his country, but around the world. And his decisions carry a lot of weight. And I'm like, hey, is that cognitive ability still? I didn't agree with him back when he was, we had all his marbles upstairs, much less when he's missing, 50% of them. And you see it getting worse every day. And oh, by the way, let's say he gets reelected. It ain't going to get any better over the next 5 years. What, you think the guy's going to take Prevagen and get smarter over the next 5 years? I mean, it's just crazy. But we got a few minutes. I want to hit you up with this. And I think, this is going to be interesting. And I hope it all plays out. College football, man. Mm-hmm. So they do not expand the playoffs until next year. Right? So this year, it's a 4-team playoff. Georgia, number 1, 11-0. Ohio State, number 2, 11-0. Michigan, number 3, 11-0. Washington, number 4, 11-0. Florida State, number 5, 11-0. They all go undefeated. Well, you know what? I guess it will work itself out because Michigan does play Ohio State. But you could see a point here where you can make an argument for Oregon, 10-1, Texas, 10-1, Alabama, 10-1, Louisville, 10-1. 4 teams, man. What do you think? Who are the top 4 and who's going to win it all?
That's tough, man. And that's a tough one because I just don't know. It's so tough with the Pac-12 or whatever they're calling themselves this week while it's still on this earth. I don't know. I'm just not impressed watching them play. And Washington is number 4 over Florida State. I gotta wince at that.
I think it's just because this last week they beat a ranked team.
It's not right because if the Ohio State and Michigan game is close and is close and like it's won by
it's a 1-point game.
Yeah, 1-point game. They'll both go to the playoff probably. And it's not fair for UT, who's going to kick the crap out of Texas Tech, and I'm not going to enjoy watching that. It's not fair to UT, who happened to lose in a rivalry game with OU, which Oregon has that rivalry game with Oregon State this weekend, and I think Washington is playing Washington State. It was rivalry week, and top 4. I'll call it. Georgia's going to win the national championship. Let's get that straight right now.
I agree.
I agree with Josh on that. It's like Florida State, maybe, poor Josh, man. He's just he takes a win, like a big win because they had a bad first quarter. He just got really upset about that. I was like, bro, at least you have a good team. We won against a crappy team by 1 point. And I'm like sitting here running naked around the house because I'm so happy. Just be happy where you're at. But anyway.
But that's happening to everybody. Because even don't get me wrong, I mean they're all undefeated, but Georgia has had its struggles in games. Ohio State's had their struggle in games. Michigan's had their struggle. They don't seem as dominant this year as what we've witnessed in years past. I don't know if you're seeing the same thing or not. Could be just
Yeah,
anecdotal.
I everybody can have a bad first quarter, and you always say it. You always say it. Oh man, it's still early. That's true. And it goes the other way too. Your game, the Chiefs are having a really good game last night. I was like, man, this is great.
I won
But
my
Roger come back
$2
with
and
Roger comes back. It's still early. It's like that's right because they lost the game. I don't know. It definitely needs to be expanded. I think Georgia's going to win. I think that Michigan or Ohio State will be in there. Maybe Florida State will make it in if there'll be an argument for Florida State to make it in. Against over Michigan or Ohio State, depending on who loses that game, and then Washington. So you know what it could be? It could be Georgia. Let's say Michigan wins. Georgia, Michigan, Florida State, and Washington. It could be that.
yeah, because Florida State, I think they play Louisville in the ACC championship game. That is 10-1, ranked number 9 in the nation. You beat Louisville, dude. I think you're in, right? Georgia's going to be in regardless. If Florida State beats Louisville, they're in, I think.
What if they don't? Then Texas has a decent argument.
If they,
I guess.
You know what? I think a lot of it depends on the Ohio State Michigan game. Like you said, if it's a point or a field goal, they both probably get in if Florida State loses. So let's say Florida State wins. Georgia, the winner of the Ohio State Michigan game, Washington, Florida State. That's going to be your top 4. Georgia's going to win the whole thing. They'll all be undefeated if it stays that way. What's interesting is if Florida State loses, then you open up the door and you say, well, how close was the Ohio State Michigan game? If it's a field goal or under, do they both make it in? If not, do you let a team like Louisville, who's ranked number 9 at 10-1, who just beat number 5 Florida, right? Do you let them in? Do you go all the way down to number 9? But then again, you jump a Texas that's going to play, who'd you say, Texas Tech?
Mm-hmm.
So dude, it gets tough. And I think it makes all the, it's a shame because this year would be the year to have the 12-team playoff.
Well, you've also, after that, you've got the conference championship game.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'll stick with Georgia's going to win. So they're going to expand the playoff to how many teams?
It's supposed to be 12 next year.
Oh, that's going to be awesome. That's where the rubber meet the road. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. And so that way you're not, it's not like, because remember years ago, man, like if you lost one game, that was it. It was over. You were out of it. You weren't going to the Rose Bowl, the Orange Bowl, or whatever. But I know we only have a couple minutes here, so I'll throw it to you real quick after I give my shout outs. But Will beats me up every day. Hey man, when you drop another episode, I've got other I'm surprised that when we go and this one here, I'll drop Thanksgiving. So first of all, happy Thanksgiving to everybody. But I'm amazed that when we go like a week or 10 days and we don't drop an episode, how many texts I actually get. Like, hey, dude, like WTF, So real quick, I didn't mention it early on, but to sum it all up, and Josh has used this quote many times, something very similar, and you have as well. When it comes to what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country, we're talking about the economy and inflation and this and that, and I'll take the biblical piece out of this because I heard it today and I was like, oh, wow, this is actually spot on. Sufferings produce endurance. Endurance produces character. Character produces hope, and hope leads to action. So when you talk about how do we get, and in that end phrase, actually, I changed that because it does go into hope does not disappoint because we have God's love in our hearts and through the Holy Spirit. But when you look at how us as a country comes out of this, hopefully the suffering is not too bad because like we said, none of us want to suffer, but it goes back to the hard times make strong men, make good times, that thing, very similar. Right. And we've been very, very comfortable. So, I just kind of keep that in the back of my mind that's probably the way that we get out of this stuff. And hopefully it's not as protracted as the Ukraine-Russia war. So that's all I got.
Yeah, I think we're going to get out of it by finally having a Gen X president and some Gen X leadership up in there because we may not agree with them all, but damn, they're more interesting than the old farts out there. So I don't know. And Thanksgiving is in my top two favorite holidays, and it always is. And we got a lot of tradition. Not we as a people have a lot of tradition in Thanksgiving. I think it's a hope holiday because you get together with those that you love, you break bread, and you know, be thankful for what you got, the big things, the small things, and the stuff you don't even think about every day. Um, and those of us who have been downrange, or those of us who have been in austere environments, understand, man, some of those little things you don't even know you should be thankful for them. So yeah, man, just thank God for that. And I've been doing a lot of research on like situational awareness and stuff like that. And I think that I've been thinking a lot about fear, right? And how fear kills. So I'll leave you with a quote from Frank Herbert. And this goes back to what Roger was just saying, how we come out of this, the fourth turning, all that stuff. All this stuff you read on social media, the world's coming to an end, all this stuff. Keep a positive attitude. So here's the quote: I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer. Fear is the little death that brings total obliteration. I will face my fear. I will permit it to pass over me and through me. And when it has gone past, I will turn the inner eye to see its path. When the fear is gone, there will be nothing. Only I will remain. So stay strong out there, y'all. That's why y'all listen. That's why we love you. So until next time, keep your canteen cups full and tightly secured. Peace.